I think this is a very good experimental watch, and if you're a diehard horror fan looking for some crazy cool fun, this will be it. Infinity Pool. James and M. Foster are enjoying an all-inclusive beach vacation in the fictional island of Latolka when a fatal accident exposes the resort's perverse subculture of hedonistic tourism, reckless violence, and surreal horrors. If that sounds really abstract and you might even be a little bit lost, don't worry. I was a little bit lost in this movie too, but eventually found my way through it. This isn't normally a movie I'd find myself going out and seeing, but I'm glad I gave it a shot because honestly, I enjoyed it and I recommend seeing it. For you die-hard horror fans out there, I think you're gonna love this movie. For those of you who might belong to a general movie-going audience, if you feel like taking a risk, this might be for you. I know I did, and I don't regret it. This movie feels very experimental in nature. It feels very unsettling. The movie definitely disorients you at quite a few points. It feels very much like a fever dream, and it's very unique in that way. I've got to give it to this movie. The manner in which it makes the audience feel uncomfortable and disoriented is really effective for what it's going for. For about the first half hour, there's a deliberate use of different effects, different camera shots, different panning shots that are meant to make you feel a little bit shaken and stirred. Like even within the opening scene, I found myself kind of feeling like a little unsettled, like I didn't quite know how to feel what was going on. It definitely kept me intrigued and hooked into what was going to happen. But the camera does this thing where instead of showing it straight up and down like a normal human would see, like you're seeing me right now, it would kind of tilt it and keep rotating it throughout the first few scenes, which I thought was an interesting choice. It very much foreshadowed what the overall tone was going to be. It shows you that you're in for a ride that you might not understand and might even feel a little bit lost and a little uncomfortable with at times, which the movie fulfilled its promise. I mean, sometimes the movies would take measures that didn't really seem to make a whole lot of sense in order to do so, but the film was at least consistent in that way, and it ironically made it a little bit more enjoyable because you didn't really quite know what to expect next. And speaking of not really knowing what to expect next, the whole concept that this movie is going for is actually super creative. I don't want to give it away too much because of the spoilers, but the whole idea behind the infinity pool and with what our characters go through and experience is something I haven't quite seen in movies before. The closest comparison I can make is like with the movie Face Off, but even then, that's a bit of a stretch. Once the movie reveals to you early on what exactly the infinity pool is, and it doesn't take too long to get to that point, it can kind of perplex you and it'll have you thinking for the rest of the movie. Like after they kind of explain what exactly is going on, you're kind of like, this is really fascinating. How does it play in with the rest of the movie? And the movie continues to beg you different questions. And the way that these ideas are conveyed and written into the script, I gotta give Brandon Cronenberg, who wrote and directed this movie, a lot of credit because these ideas are very original and very different. And for me personally, I absolutely love original ideas. And if you're looking yourself for something original, especially in the horror space, because I think the horror space is really good at this movie's definitely going to be for you. And taking that whole idea of this creative approach and concept a little bit further, I got to give this movie credit for getting me to think and interpret it in a few different ways. For me personally, I love to do what I like to call reads on a movie, where I like to find the deeper meaning within each of these scripts and see what questions it poses about real life. And if you try to explore this movie on a deep level like that, you might be able to come up with several different interpretations, which I think is where it gets fun. A few for me personally would be something along the lines of, is this a movie about reckoning with your past and coming to terms with it? Is this movie about enjoying your vacation as much as you can and becoming a different person and becoming more refreshed because of it? Is it about what happens when you don't enjoy your vacation? Is it about the human nature of rules and transcending beyond your innate self and your animalistic nature? There's probably a few other different reads of this movie that you could come up with yourself that I wouldn't consider, but that's part of what makes this movie so fun. You can chalk up James Foster's experience to being, I guess, a sort of metaphor for something else in the greater world that we live in, which I think is just fascinating. I guess the main read I would have in that space within this movie would be transcending yourself past your old self, outgrowing your own shell and evolving as a human, or catching yourself just before you hit your valley. I know I'm getting a little abstract here, but like I said, that's what this movie hit me with, and that's what I walked out feeling. And speaking of feelings, I gotta say, Mia Goth is taking the horror world by storm within the last year, and I'm really excited to see where she goes next. Between her crushing it in Ty West's movies, X and Pearl within the same year, and now coming out here with Brandon Cronenberg in Infinity Pool, the sky's the limit for her, because to me, she is by far the best talent in horror working today. I mean, every crazy, unimaginable performance that you can think of that's possible in horror, she has been able to pull off, and a lot of people would say that is Oscar worthy. And honestly, I would agree. I really loved her performance and Pearl and X, and the same goes for Infinity Pool because she has to do some very challenging acting. And if she can pull off 3 awesome performances like I just aforementioned in a row, the sky's the limit for her, and she delivers her talent in this movie in spades, and it made me appreciate the film even more. Now, this movie isn't all sunshine and rainbows. For a general movie-going audience, I don't think you're going to like this movie because it doesn't really have wide appeal, but if you're a diehard horror fan, this is a very niche movie that falls in line with that I think you'll love. But no matter what camp you belong in, I wouldn't blame you if you said that this movie was a little boring and a little confusing. This movie does get very experimental in nature at quite a few points, and of course, as with all experiments, part of it is figuring out what works and what doesn't work, and this movie's got a little bit of both. There are a couple of fever dream sequences, for lack of a better term, in this film that to me went on for way too long and kind of got a little stale. I mean, sure, if they do it once, fine, but they end up doing it like 2 or 3 times, and by the middle of the second time, I'm kind of like, can we move this along, please? And if you're part of the general movie-going audience that isn't too open-minded, you might even be tempted to walk out of this film, and like I said, I wouldn't blame you. But if you've got an open mind, this stuff is gonna probably cater to you, probably appeal to you, and I think you're gonna really enjoy this movie for that reason. I'll wrap it up here. So friends, in the end, I'm gonna have to give Infinity Pool a 7 out of 10. I think this is a very good experimental watch, and if you're a diehard horror fan looking for some crazy cool fun, this will be it. If you're part of a general movie going audience, maybe skip this one. Either way, I enjoyed it. I recommend it. If you've seen it, I would love to know what you think of it. Friends, thank you so much for watching another movie review. If you like this or thought it was helpful, I'd be honored if you consider clicking the like button, clicking these end cards up above, or the links down in the description below for your reviewing pleasure. Or if you like, follow me on social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Once again, I've been Bryson. Until next time, have a great day.